until we get to the review part. So we're going over our 2.4 homework. As I kind of mentioned to you guys as I was walking around the room, make sure that we're getting the book. And if you don't know how to access the book or you don't know how to buy it, we're gonna have to figure that out outside of class. While we don't use the book as much in geometry as you do in algebra, you still need to have it. It's still your responsibility. And I will not post screenshots again. So this is the last time. We're at Q1. We should have the book for the last 3 quarters, okay? If you need help with that, again, I'll have to just figure it out. I don't know how to access the book. The way I do it is different than how you guys do. So I'll either sit down with you and we'll work through it, or we can go to technology and see if they can help us, okay? But it's the exact same way you buy all the other books. I know math is sometimes a little funny, but it should be funny on just accessing, not on actually purchasing. So make sure that that is bought. So that's my spiel on the book. Make sure that that's bought. Questions on number 1. Anything on inductive or deductive reasoning? What is inductive again? Inductive means what? How are we reasoning? Observations, good. Observations, patterns, specific examples. What about deductive? Facts, good, Cooper? It's like a rule. It's like, that's just how things go. Very good. Rules, facts, properties, definitions, all that stuff. Anybody questions on 1? All right, number 2, now each letter is a set of problems. So each letter here, we'll look at A, B, and C first. So if I'm looking at letter A, I want to make sure statements 1 and 2 lead to statement 3. So I usually read the first 2 statements and I stop and try and think about which one it is. And then I decide if it's a true conclusion or if it's an invalid conclusion. The first one, the P's match, which is a smiley face, it's good. So that's a true conclusion. It's the law of detachment. The second one, I had to write my first statement as an if-then. So all 45-degree angles are congruent. If angles are 45 degrees, then they are congruent. Well, in this case, my Q's match, which is not good. That makes me sad, and that's an invalid conclusion. A and B can be congruent and not be 45. And then letter C, if you ordered the apple pie, then it would be served with ice cream. Matthew ordered the apple pie. My P's match, which is good, so I can conclude that he will be served ice cream. Those all follow law of detachment. I didn't have to write law of detachment for the second one, though, because it was an invalid argument. So 1 and 3 were both true, so I wrote law of detachment. The second one was invalid. Any questions on those guys? No? Okay. D, E, and F. D says, if you wear the school colors, then you have school spirit. If you have school spirit, then the team feels great. 2 if-thens means syllogism. So I have syllogism and I have the middle guy cancels out. The end of the first statement and the beginning of the second statement are the same. So those cancel out. And I'm going to conclude that if we wear the school colors, then the team will feel great. And so I wrote true law of syllogism. Letter E is if you eat too much turkey, you will get sick. Kinsley got sick. Well, that matches my Q. My Q's match there. Kinsley could get sick for a lot of reasons, right? It doesn't just have to be because she ate too much turkey. You could have the flu. You could have allergies. You could have COVID. Those have nothing to do with eating too much turkey, right? I would think on our list of being ill, eating too much turkey is like not very common. It's at the bottom, right? Nobody's called in school and been like, wow, my kid ate too much turkey. They're sick. There's a lot of other reasons. So that's invalid. And then letter F is a law of syllogism because it's 2 if-thens. And then my middle guy is angle 3 is obtuse. That cancels out. So that is a true statement, law of syllogism. Questions on the homework worksheet part? All right, bookwork parts. Oh, sorry. Yes, Jackson. Oh, wait, okay. Bookwork parts. Remember to look at what numbers I ask you to do. I don't need you to do all of them. It's not busy work. I value all of these problems, so I want to make sure we know how to do them. There's a lot of writing here, so this is about as zoomed in as I can get. I will zoom in just on the highlighting because that kind of helps you figure out what's going on. In number 7, the Q's match, which is not good, so that's invalid. But in 8 and 10, the P's match, which is good, so I can make statements there. So I wrote 7 is invalid because my example is a Q, not a P. It should be a P. And then in 8, did I write law of syllogism? That is not right at all. What was I thinking? That's a detachment. And then points A, X, Y, and Z are collinear. That's detachment. And then last one is also detachment. Rashid must study hard. Any questions on those? Do I need to scroll out so you can see the actual problem? Okay. 11 and 12, those are syllogism. If the thing in the middle matches, then it's true, or we can make a conclusion. If it doesn't match, then we can't make a conclusion. So number 11, I could conclude that if an animal is a Florida panther, then it is endangered. I cut out the middle part, which was the scientific name of the panther. But number 12, the one that's the same isn't in the middle, it's at the end of both. If it's not in the middle, I can't cross it out and I cannot come up with a conclusion. So number 12 is a no conclusion. So this is the words that I wrote. No conclusion. It doesn't go PQ and then QR, so we cannot conclude QR. It essentially goes PQ and then RQ, and the Q is not in the middle, so I cannot like kind of bus it together, or like little toy train things, so you can kind of connect those up. I can't like connect those guys together. Any questions on this so far? Okay. 15, 16, and 17, we're making a conclusion. So I gave you statements that were both law of detachment and law of syllogism, and we just wanted to see what we could assume or what we could conclude. Do you want me to talk through them, or are we okay on that?
Wait, yeah, can we talk about, okay, well, I get confused on like random conclusion first.
Yeah.
So like, can you walk me through 15?
Yeah. So 15 has a lot of statements, and I have to write a conclusion from that. So it says if the mountain is the highest in Alaska, then it's the highest in the US. If an Alaskan mountain is more than 20,300 feet tall, then it's the highest in Alaska. Then it tells me Mount McKinley is 20,320 feet high. Okay, that's cool. What I know from that is that it is more than 20,300 feet, right? So I'm looking at the second statement now. I'm like, okay, Mount McKinley is more than that, so that must mean it's the highest in Alaska. So I'm kind of working backwards. I started here, and now I'm like, okay, so Mount McKinley is that, so that means it's the highest mountain in Alaska. Okay, if I know it's the highest mountain in Alaska, then I know it must be the highest in the US. And so I'm going to conclude that Mount McKinley is the highest mountain in the US. Since it told me that it's more than 20,300 feet tall, then I know that it has to be the highest in Alaska, because if a mountain's taller than that, then it's the highest. So I said, okay, it's the biggest mountain in Alaska. And then the very first sentence said, well, if it's the tallest mountain in Alaska, if it's the highest one in Alaska, then it has to be the highest in the US. So then I can conclude, okay, well, if it's the tallest in Alaska, then it must be the tallest in the US. So Mount McKinley is the highest mountain in the US. Okay, same thing for the next one. It says, if you live in the Bronx, then you live in New York. Tracy lives in the Bronx. Okay, if we stop there, if Tracy lives in the Bronx, then she must live in New York. We all okay with Tracy living in New York? Okay, then it says if you live in New York, then you live in the 11th state to enter the Union. Well, if Tracy lives in New York, then she must live in the 11th state to enter the Union. So that's what my conclusion is on that one. Tracy lives in the 11th state to enter the Union. The last one is actually going to have no conclusion. It says, if you're studying botany, then you're studying biology. Okay, that's cool. If you're studying biology, then you're studying a science. Okay, also cool. If I stopped there, what I could assume is that if you're studying botany, then you're taking a science class. It says Shanti is taking a science class. Can we conclude that Shanti is taking biology or botany? No? What other science class could Shanti be taking? Chemistry? Most of you guys are in chemistry, right? They could be taking chemistry, they could be taking zoology, they could be taking anatomy, they could be taking astronomy, they could be taking physics. There's a ton of different sciences. And just because Shanti's taking science does not mean that she's taking a botany class. Okay? So here we kind of had to like snake our way through those statements. It's hard right now because there's no math. I can't like, add things to both sides or divide. It's just logic. And so if you need help with like talking through the logic, I'm trying my best, but we also can sit down and talk one-on-one when we get to review time. Okay, I'm gonna go to the next page. There's just 4 on this one. The first one said, rewrite it as a conditional statement. The world's largest trees are giant sequoias. If the tree is the largest tree, then it is a giant sequoia. Something along those lines. Oh, yeah.
If it's the world's largest tree, then it's a giant sequoia. Would that work too?
Yep. Yep. As long as you have something about being the largest tree in the beginning and then being a giant sequoia at the end, you can kind of rewrite that however you want to.
Could you switch it and say if it's a giant sequoia, then it's
No, because that would be its converse. So try and keep it in the order that it's written. So since giant sequoia is at the end of that statement, I want to keep it at the end of my conditional statement. Good question. All right, let's jump over to 20 and 24, 20, 21, 24. 20 says write a conditional, or write the 2 conditionals that make up the biconditional. What makes a biconditional statement? What's special about a biconditional? Anybody know? Kate?
Isn't it, it has to be true, so that's what you're saying.
It is true. What else? There's something special about how it's written.
It says, you don't say, that you don't use the conditional, you say, like, whatever it is, and then you say if and only if.
Very good. Very good. Biconditionals have if and only if in the middle. They don't start with if. They don't have then. It's just if and only if. So if I have a statement, an angle is an acute angle, if and only if its measure is between 0 and 90, then I'm going to split that into 2 conditionals. The first one starts with if an angle is an acute angle, then its measure is between 0 and 90, and then I can do its converse. If its measures between 0 and 90, then an angle is an acute angle. And again, we're going to try and stay consistent and always put the thing that's at the beginning first and then the thing that's second at the end. Try and stay consistent. Okay. Number 21 is rewrite it as a biconditional, so you need to have if and only if in there. Or you can use your little IFF, that is also fine. Points that lie on the same line are collinear. Points are collinear if and only if they lie on the same line. You can also write that as if points lie on the same line, then they are if and only if they are collinear. And then the last one is what's a good definition? It's a good definition to be as exact as possible. So letter D says a yard is a unit of measure exactly 3 feet long. That's the best definition. All right, questions, comments, concerns? Okay, if you have this on paper, make sure your name's on it. If you didn't finish the book problems, you can keep yours and turn that all in to me in a little bit. I'd love it this class if we could get that done. What we're going to do now is do our 2-5 notes. We're going to finish those. So I don't know, I got all the way out of here. 2-5 notes. So we didn't finish this last bit right here. So we're going to finish this last quarter of a paper, and then I'm going to give you your study guides, and that's all we're going to do for the rest of class. You can also work on your 2-5 homework because I'm going to collect that tomorrow on the day of your quiz. So if you don't have that done, that's a good thing to have done. Does anyone want a paper copy of the 2-5 notes? I know that you were at home, but I had them printed off because I had to teach them last class yesterday. So if you want a paper copy of the 2-5 notes, I'm going to bring that around, and I'm going to pick up anybody's homework. So any homework over here, you want paper copies? So you did the first one on your iPad, but some of us like paper copies. I'm fine. Any paper copies? We're at the very back, like half of the page. Do you want paper notes? Sammy, do you want paper notes? Yes, please. Oh, I'm not far away from them. Do you want paper notes? Mara, do you want paper notes? No. It's too far. Yes. Thank you. Okay, so the big thing we learned in 2.5 were the proofs and the properties. So I'm going to tell you right now, and you're going to see this on your study guide, you will have a list of properties like this on the quiz, and you will have a proof like this on the quiz. And they're ones practice on the study guide, so there's more practice, but like sometimes I tell my classes there's stuff on the quiz and then it's like they don't believe me or they don't trust me. Like this for sure is on your quiz. I'm not here to trip you up. I'm here to just test what you know. So trust me that if you don't know how to do a proof, you're going to lose like 5 to 10 points and that's not going to be good. So you need help with proofs. That's what I'm here for. Did we finish these 8 right here in the middle?
Yeah.
We did? Okay. Then we're going to get started with the definition of congruence. So I've got one more property I haven't taught you yet. If for some reason we want to go from 2 lengths being equal to 2 segments being congruent, from an equals to a congruent, then we call that the definition of congruent segments. You can write it all the way out, definition of congruent segments, but I am just generally too lazy to do that. So if you ever go from congruence to equality or equality to congruence or whatever way around that, if nothing else changed except for an equal sign became a congruent sign or the congruent sign became an equal sign, that's called definition of congruent segments. Same thing if we do it with angles. So if I have measure of angle A equals measure of angle B, and then I have angle A is congruent to angle B, again, all that changed there was my congruence and my equal sign. This time, though, they're not segments, they are angles. So we'll say definition of congruent angles. Now, that's going to be helpful in 2.6, which I don't think we'll get to until either Friday or next week. And that is when we're going to do our geometric proof. So we haven't done any geometry proofs yet. It's all up in algebra. That being said, we will look at one little geometry proof right now. This one like this will not be on your quiz. So just, if this is confusing to you, nothing like this will be on there, but the algebra ones will be. That's fair game. So I'm going to do this proof. It's only going to be 3 steps. So I'm going to label it. I'm going to label, normally I tell you how many steps it is. I give you boxes, but I don't know why I didn't on this one. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to label reasons over here. 1, 2, 3. We always start with what? Given. Always start with the given. So I said, if these 2 things are congruent, then PQ equals ST. This is what I want to end with. This is what I'm trying to prove. And I started by writing my given in line 1. So my reason for number 1 is the given. You can't start a proof without a given. If you get no other points on the proof, every single one of us should at least write given, right? There's an easy gimme point. Okay, the next thing I want to do is I want to get to where PQ equals ST. So let's make all of these congruent signs into equal signs. All I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite that statement, but I'm going to write it with equal signs. So I'm going to say PQ equals QS and QS equals ST. I just told you we call that something special, right? When we go from congruence to equality or vice versa, we call that definition of congruent segments. And so that's going to be my reason for number 2. Definition, congruent segment. And last but not least, I'm ready to go directly to PQ equals ST. Anyone know why I'm allowed to write that? Kate knows. Who else knows? Okay, I'm going to call on you in 1 second. Everybody look at this. Why am I going to be able to write PQ equals ST? Kate, what do you think?
You can cancel out the QS.
Awesome. What's that property called? Transitive. Transitive works. I would also let you do substitution there because I could think about substituting in QS and ST or whatever. I could think about it as substitution, but I think transitive is an excellent answer because I'm able to cross out the middle term. Transitive property of equality. I'm going to remind you because we did this over Zoom and sometimes I just can't get the read of the room over Zoom. Do not forget that you have to write property of equality. You need to know those properties that I taught you at the beginning of class on 2.5, and all of them have property of equality after them except for distributive. The rest of them are all property of equality. So if you leave off property of equality, you will miss a bunch of points. I'm just giving you a heads up right now. Do not lose that. Okay, now we're done. That's it. The end. What I'm going to do is if you want a paper copy of 2.5 homework, I'll pass it out, and then I have paper copies of the review. If you don't want paper copies, you can go to our page on Schoology, and you can do, nope, it's weeks, not units, my bad. Week 7, Monday is when the homework was, that's the folder that the homework is in, 2.5, it looks like this. But I have a paper copy if you want it. And then today is Wednesday, and that's where your review is. I will put an assignment box in so you can have somewhere to submit it and you can see that it's all due tomorrow. But the rest of class is just time for you to work, time for you to ask questions, time for you to talk to a friend. I want you to get a good start of this done because this is all due tomorrow and I want us to do really awesome on this quiz. You guys have been killing it. Chapter 2, let's keep that train going, okay? Any questions? All right, here I come with paper copies. I'm gonna stop recording.